Welcome to Coach's Corner, everybody. Thanks for watching the show. I'm your host, Coach Tripp. My buddy Mark Hobley
Peace
is here for Local Sports Report. We have longtime PNJ, Pensacola News Journal sports reporter Bill Vilona in the house. Billy, it's great to see you.
Paul and Mark, great to see you guys. Good to be with you.
Man, we got so much to talk about. Let's get rolling, man. For number one, hot on everybody's mind, Super Bowl. Devin Witherspoon could have got MVP, I believe. I think Pensacola is turning into DB City with Spoon and Martin Emerson, Jeremy Reeves, even Bell, I think from UWF is playing. But talk a little bit. What are your thoughts on the Super Bowl and Devin?
Well, Paul, really the game went kind of like I thought. When people looked at the Patriots, the team that played in December and January did not look very good, and it carried right into the Super Bowl. People thought maybe the weather might have been a factor, but as the Super Bowl proved, the weather for as far as their offense goes wasn't a factor. Simply, Drake May, he had a great regular season, but just in the postseason, he looked very ordinary at best, and it showed up. I didn't think the game was going to be close, and it stayed close only because Seattle, had struggled getting touchdowns. They had to kick field goals, but in reality, it really wasn't that close. And Seattle just definitely finished what was a memorable year, not only for them, but certainly probably one of the better defensive years that we've seen in the NFL in a long time. And Devin Witherspoon, a huge part of that. I think Devin finally got his just due credit by being a captain, going out there in pregame and, for the coin toss. And then he certainly got a lot of attention in the game because of his performance. But, I tell you what, it was overlooked that he made two plays in that NFC Championship game that got them to the Super Bowl in the final minute. He broke up two passes that changed the game. And, I think he certainly blossomed into an unbelievable player. And I had a lot of people ask me about him, and I said, well, he came out of Pine Forest. He was a college prospect, but not like a 5-star guy that everybody had to have. Went to Illinois because, frankly, the SEC and ACC schools didn't recruit him that heavily. So he made the most of the opportunity at Illinois, made the most of the Senior Bowl, and then has blossomed as an NFL player. And he kind of reminds me of, say, Josh Sitton, who came out of here under the radar. And then look what he did for the Green Bay Packers. And, Martin Emerson. I mean, you could go right down the line of some of our more recent players.
Jeremy Reeves was overlooked, too.
Jeremy Reeves. I mean, we've had a lot of guys that.
Come back with us. Come back to us, Billy. Maybe he'll come on. Having some technical difficulties.
Well, I think he hit it. I think he hit it right on the head with our guys coming.
Yeah, they're all three-star guys. And I think there's a problem with the star. Who's giving out the stars? That's what they're saying. Who's giving out the stars? It's not coaches. It's not personnel. And he talked about the kid going to Illinois. Well, you got to give the coach at Illinois credit for coming down and get him. You got to give George O'Leary credit at UCF for coming and finding Josh Sitton too. Right. You got to give those guys, Joey Jones, credit at South Alabama for sticking with Jeremy Reeves when he broke his back.
Yes.
So you got to give credit to the coaches. The coaching makes a huge difference. People don't realize it. We'll get in top of Bill if he can get back online with us. But coaching makes a huge difference. And I wanted to talk to Bill about the formula for being a championship team. It hasn't changed. I don't know why people keep putting money and resources towards offenses and all this stuff, but it was the defense at Seattle. It was the defense of Indiana and a capable quarterback who didn't do what? Didn't turn it over. Yeah, didn't turn it over. Right, Hobbs. So those are
look, Pensacola played a big part in the national championship with Mendoza through the quarterback guru we have, David Lee.
David Lee had a big influence on Mendoza.
Yes, David Lee got him. Yeah. So
David Lee is best friends with Matt Adams' dad.
Right. They all played at Vanderbilt. Reggie Calvin was
Reggie Calvin.
He was a member on that team. And Pensacola's had the hand in the Super Bowl and the national championship. So obviously we got some things going our way.
Yeah, we do. There's we wanted to talk about some of those Super Bowl winners from Pensacola.
Yeah, mention some more of them.
Yeah, we'll start off with Horace Jones in 1976 with the Raiders. Emmitt Smith, of course, with the Cowboys, a few. Derek Brooks, a very own Washington High guy, right, was MVP. Josh Sitton won a Super Bowl his rookie year with the Packers. Fred Robbins won a Super Bowl in 2008 with the New York Giants. Lawrence Tynes won one. Century High's Anthony Pleasant won one with the Patriots. And we do have resident Dominic Hickson, who we're going to have on next week.
All right.
And profile his story of courage and resilience as he won one with the Giants and now runs a fishing charter. So we're going to try to get Bill back on here if he can hook up. He's trying to hook up again, as I can see. There he is. He's back.
All right.
He's back. Hey, Bill, you back?
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
My internet didn't go out, so I don't know what happened.
Technology.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some Super Bowl winners from this area. We were just talking about them, but I want to hear your if one pops out. Let me know. Horace Jones, 76 with the Raiders. Emmitt Smith, Derek Brooks from Washington. All right, with the Packers. Josh Sitton, his rookie year, won one with the Packers. Fred Robbins won one 2008 with the Giants. Lawrence Tynes won one in Century's Anthony Pleasant won with the Patriots back in the day. Wow. Did I miss anybody, Bill?
Well, Paul, we have two guys that were not only the greatest players in Florida, they were two of the greatest NFL players in history, in Emmitt and Derek.
Right.
And they both came out of here. I don't think that is understated or overstated enough. I mean, I think you look at those guys and think of this. They both grew up playing youth league football here. They both went to Pensacola area high schools, one at Escambia and one at Washington. And they both were terrific college players, and they both became NFL Hall of Fame players. And so those are two of the NFL's all-time 100 players, maybe all-time top 50 players, and they both were from Pensacola. No city our size in America can claim anything like that, and I don't think, even in Pensacola, I don't think either one of them, the magnitude of having two guys like that come out of here, I don't think people fully grasp it. I mean, it's just, we'll never see it again. So you really got to appreciate it. Of course, Emmitt was part of the pregame at the Super Bowl. He was on the field, they introduced him, and he was part of the legends that they brought out before the game. So, man, it's just amazing, really, when you think of it.
Yeah. Hobbs has a question for you.
Yeah, Bill, I'd like to touch on what you just said about those players. I don't think people in Pensacola, if you've never seen football outside of Pensacola, it's hard to say. I've been down to Fort Lauderdale, South Florida, and I've seen some really good football, and they just don't have the names that we have. They got 10 Derek Brooks out there, but those guys never go on and do what Weatherspoon, Horace Jones, or Emmitt Smith does.
Well,
talent-wise, they have it, but
let's talk about that, Bill, a little bit. 2009 was our last state championship team. You know as well as I do that in the 70s and 80s, we had 4 or 5 teams win a state title, and we've had 8, I think, within 10 years. Now we haven't had one in almost 20 years, and Hobbs lived down there. I coached at Tate when we beat everybody up here, Pine Forest, Navarre, Niceville, and then went to Armwood. We got smoky bared in Armwood. We just got crushed. We had no chance, and they get beat by Miami Central by 20.
Well, I think a couple things have happened. Number one, the population in Central Florida and South Florida has exploded. It's exploded to the degree where there are so many high schools, so many people living there, that it creates a wealth of competition. The players that come out of those schools, they're playing against good people, so they have a good gauge when they're freshmen just how good they are. Number two, for whatever reason, those schools seem to get better facilities. Maybe they pay the coaches better. You look at our high schools, and you could let's look at our high schools. How many of them have been able to upgrade facilities?
Zero.
Pensacola Catholic did it because Josh Sitton graciously paid for a facility to be built at Catholic.
Right.
I for whatever reason, Escambia, Washington, PHS. I mean, these are places that have had nothing done. Pine Forest. I mean, look at Pine Forest, for example. Look at the talent that has come out of Pine Forest, and then take a look at the facilities they have. Right. I mean, it's just stunning, really. Devin Witherspoon.
Why is that? Why is the money not being spent?
I think you got to have. Number one, it's got to start with the will of the people. The community has to be willing to pay. I mean, the money's not going to fall out of the sky for these high schools and and to improve education. The way to do it is you got to do it financially, and we just for whatever reason there's been a reluctance to upgrade. In Escambia County, I know the coaches' salaries or stipends are low. Terribly low, which forces coaches to go elsewhere a lot of times. So there's a lot of problems here.
Or it forces them to retire.
So there's a lot of problems. I've traveled all over the state, and I can see the difference between, Fort Lauderdale high schools and some Miami high schools and some Orlando high schools, and what we have here, it's night and day different. So that's part of the problem I think that we have in our area. And it's not just the athletic facilities. I mean, look at the high schools themselves and how, they're still operating with a lot of temporary buildings, and there's just been no massive push to renovate high schools and make the learning experience better.
Wow.
Well, Bill, I think it's starting to happen down in South Florida. I think Broward County is now taking over as the best spot for high school football in the country from Miami because people really don't want to live in Miami. So they're starting to move to Broward, and they're leaving Broward and going to Palm Beach County now. Palm Beach County is the place to be. Just like, we used to win at PHS, we used to win at Washington, we used to win at Escambia, and then all of a sudden people started going to Milton and Pace and Navarre, and all of a sudden that's what you're going to see now. The great teams are going to start to come out of Palm Beach County because they're starting to move away from your St. Thomas's, your American Heritage, and Chaminade Madonnas. Right now, those three, you got 3 of the top football programs in the country, and they don't even play each other, and they're less than 10 miles away.
Well, I know as I sit and watch some high school games, and I think back to when I moved here in 1988, what it was like. And then I start thinking about this. Pensacola as a community has grown. It is prospering as a community. There's been a lot of improvements. Look at downtown. Look at all the residential. Look what Navy Federal's done. Look at 9 Mile Road. I mean, you could just go on and on about the growth.
Right.
But when it comes to the high schools, it's been a puzzle to me. Why the programs don't have more interested players. What's going on? Because it's not like the population has fallen,
Right.
but we just don't have the same depth of teams and talent that existed here in the late 80s and the 90s.
Right.
I don't know what the answer. I don't know what happened, but it is different. And so you got to appreciate like a Devin Witherspoon, and you hope that maybe he inspires more people, more kids to want to play football. I mean, it really baffles me because Pensacola is one of the biggest growing communities in the state of Florida. And certainly we get a lot of well-deserved accolades for our beaches and the beauty and the improvements downtown. But it just at the high school athletic level, and we're not just talking about football, basketball struggling badly.
Yes.
And baseball's not the same as it was.
Exactly.
So it's not just football. It's just across the board. And I don't know the answer to it.
Wow, I don't either. We're searching, we're looking, we're trying to find it. But talk about areas with great athletes. You're from Pittsburgh. Pennsylvania. Listen to these quarterbacks alone that have come from Pennsylvania. George Blanda, Babe Pirelli, Joe Namath, all played for Coach Bryant. Johnny Luchek, Jim Kelly, Dan Marino, Johnny Unitas, and Joe Montana, who I played against. Are you kidding me?
And don't forget Dan Marino.
Yeah, Dan Marino. Yep, Dan Marino. Unbelievable.
Now, up there, because I was born and raised up there, you have a population decline. You have a massive amount of the communities up there are not the same. There's been a huge population loss. The high school I went to has half the students. I graduated in a school with 3,300 students. They have 1,500 there now at my high school. So you can see what's happened. The population has shrunk. Pittsburgh and Western Pennsylvania, because of all of the steel mills and the industrial side of things that closed and simply, economically wasn't viable anymore. Those communities are hurting. And so it's a different kind of a city now. It had to transform into healthcare and other things, but smaller than it was. And when all of those guys that you mentioned played, there's one thing in common: the steel mills were thriving. The industrial side of Pittsburgh was thriving. Well, that didn't happen anymore. So this is why I compare it to Pensacola in a way. Like, our community is growing, our community is blossoming, and I just don't understand what the high schools. They're hitting not just football. There hasn't been maybe an upgrade in overall talent that you would have thought, but up there, big difference because of the population decline.
Folks, we're talking to Bill Vilona, longtime reporter, covered everything, 1987, started covering FSU football, became friends with Coach Bobby Bowden. I had him on my show. What an honor. I remember when he came to Pensacola in 2014, and he signed, I had a book signing, and I went to it. It was at my children's mother's. She ran a Christian bookstore, and he did it there. You went to lunch with him that day when he came over. Talk about that lunch and your relationship with Bobby Bowden.
Well, I knew when I was covering Florida State and being around him on a daily basis that I was blessed to be around one of the greatest coaches of all time, because I knew. And again, going back to my background in Pittsburgh, when he coached at West Virginia, he took a very downtrodden program at West Virginia and made it competitive. And he did it without hardly any resources. I mean, West Virginia University back then didn't have hardly anything. They had coal mines and they had steel mills, but they didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
So, he went there. And of course, Morgantown was only an hour away from Pittsburgh. So I was very familiar with growing up about his name and what he did there. And then when he went to Florida State, he inherited nothing. He inherited a program that was on the verge of collapse.
Wow.
That he was maybe their final coach. If he didn't make it, they might have considered reducing emphasis in football back then. So you think about that. Then he turned it into a national power, and they didn't have a lot of money. They weren't in a conference. They didn't get a lot of TV money. I mean, they weren't near a big city. Think of all the things that he overcame to make Florida State great. Now he was different than the other legends that you look at. You look at all of those guys that were legends at that time. Tom Osborne, Bear Bryant, Eric Parsegian,
Joe Paterno,
Joe Paterno. You look at all of those guys. What did they have in common? Yeah, they were great coaches, but they inherited a foundation, a great program with a massive fan base and a lot of revenue comparative to where at the time, those schools were all doing well. So I think Bobby Bowden doesn't get enough credit, and I think he is now. I think it's recognized. People thought, 14 years of 10-win seasons. Yeah, he's looking. He's in the ACC. Let me tell you, the ACC was stronger when he coached than it is now. The ACC had more talent in those years with Virginia, NC State, Maryland. You look at some of those teams that they played and guys that came out of there and went on to the NFL. North Carolina had a stronger program than right now. So look what he did at Florida State. People thought, he's just playing pass. No, you're still winning 14 straight years of 10 or more wins.
Top 5. People do not. That'll never be done again.
Look how strong.
Yes, sir.
And I was going to say, look how strong the Florida Gators were then under Steve Spurrier. Look at how powerful Miami was with Jimmy Johnson and Larry Coker and the coaches that they had. Look at the year after year success of the Florida Gators and Miami. And Florida State had to play both of those teams. If they didn't play those teams, Bobby would have had 3 or 4 more national championships.
He would have had 8, 9, 10 championships.
Yeah, exactly.
Easy.
Yeah, that was that's a great observation, Bill. Appreciate you talking about that. We were just watching hockey on the Olympics. You and I both played hockey as kids. We love hockey. Talk about growing up. Your dad and your uncle were a big influence on you, going to Penguins and Pirate games.
Yeah, I was lucky. They both were huge sports fans to the point where, back when they were kids, Pittsburgh had 3 professional baseball teams. They had the Pirates, but they had 2 Negro League teams. Wow. Homestead Grays with Josh Gibson, and the Pittsburgh Crawfords with Satchel Paige and others. So I used to say to them, well, hey, how did you go to all these games? And they go, well, they were free. And I said, well, what do you mean free? I said, well, when they were kids, they just let the kids in. It was 50 cents to see a Pirates game when they were 50 cents to see a Pirates game. They got in to see those Negro League games for nothing, for free. They would just pass a hat and people would put $1, whatever it was. There was no tickets. So they were going to see, and they saw Jackie Robinson. They saw these guys play, so I mean, then that sort of passed on to me when I was growing up. Roberto Clemente came on, and he was the first Latino superstar, and he transformed the Pirates. He willed the Pirates with Willie Stargell. So think about this. I'm proud of the fact the Pirates set up Major League Baseball history. They started an all Latino and black lineup one game. No,
Manny
there was not a
St.
white player
Gian.
on the team, and you in the lineup, and
Manny St.
that was in
Gian.
late 1960s,
Right.
early 1970s. I mean, they're
Right.
talking about a long time ago. But Clemente and Stargell were a tandem unlike anything. Now, when I look at how the Pirates have struggled, it hurts. But
Man,
different era. Different era.
Friend-
You didn't have the salaries. You didn't have the
Right.
the TV contracts. You didn't have all the things that changed baseball. But yes, so I was blessed. They passed along that sports love. The Steelers were terrible until I was 11 years old, and then they've been good ever since. So 50 years and plus of a very competitive NFL franchise, obviously. So and Penguins they came on. I was a teenager when their rise started, but yeah, I mean, they were blessed too with Mario Lemieux and now Sidney Crosby,
Hey, Bill,
two of the greatest players of all time.
I started playing hockey when I was 7, and when I went till I was 14 till high school. I had to pick between hockey and basketball. My dad actually started our high school. We had 4,000 kids in my high school. You get 33.
Wow.
My dad started our high school hockey program and didn't even know how to skate, but he knew we needed a program. Did you play high school hockey?
I did. Yes, I did. I think back to those days because I haven't put on skates in 20 years. And if I tried, I'd have to have body armor on to prevent me from hurting myself from falling. I used to be able to skate, and I haven't had.
Really?
But I mean, I could still, as in terms of like holding a hockey stick and showing somebody how to hold a hockey stick, and on a street hockey level, I'd be okay. But ice, man, I'd need a lot of time.
Well, wait a minute, Bill. I heard it was like riding a bike. Now I played hockey.
It's not
I
like
love
riding
it.
a bike.
It's not.
Skating. Not skating
Oh,
fast.
man.
It's not like riding a bike, and certainly not when you get over 50 and over 60. So that's a little different. But anyway, yes, I played and loved it, and that of course then ironically I come to Pensacola and look how hockey has made its impact in Pensacola. On February 28th, the Ice Flyers are going to celebrate a 30-year anniversary of ice hockey. It's going to be a special night. They'll have commemorative merchandise and all sorts of things that night. It's a Saturday night, but that'll be 30 years of professional hockey in Pensacola, Florida. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Again, another proud moment for this community because you look around at in our region, Mobile, Montgomery, Biloxi, all of the Tallahassee, all these places were once homes of various minor league teams, and they're not anymore in hockey. So really, Pensacola is so amazing as a community to support two minor league sports franchises like they do. And I'll be honest. I mean, it's kind of surreal for me to think about being at the Bay Center in Pensacola, Florida, watching a hockey game and being able to do it all these years. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it really is. They're doing improvements on it. Is it true that they're going to do a practice rank? Another rank?
They've been talking about it, Paul, for probably 10 years.
Oh, gosh.
They've been talking about improving the Bay Center for 15 years.
Right.
I hope I live long enough to see it because, I mean, honestly, they've been talking about this forever.
Right.
But the stumbling block is finances, and you're not going to get taxpayers to foot the bill. So they got to get creative in how they do this. Now, the Sun Belt Conference, which is going to hold their 6th basketball tournament in a row in Pensacola. And by the way, that's another first for Pensacola.
Yes.
In the history of the Sun Belt Conference, no city has hosted a Sun Belt championship basketball tournament for 6 consecutive years. New Orleans was on the verge of it, but COVID hit and the tournament got wiped out. So Pensacola will set another mark this year in the Sun Belt. So let's look at the Sun Belt Conference tournament. They have forced changes to the Bay Center that have added the overall fan experience to all events, concerts, games, the ice flyers, trade shows, you name it, because now they have beautiful high definition video boards. They got a much better sound system. The locker rooms have been improved. For the ice flyers, it got them a new ice making facility, new boards for the rink, new plexiglass for the boards, everything. Much better experience. But I think everybody read the proposal of upgrading it is going to be very, very expensive. But it needs to happen. I mean, it has to happen.
Got to do it.
I mean, the facility is 40 years old, 50 years old. They got to do it. But there's, again, the old thorny issue is how's it going to get financed?
Well, private, because that's what UWF's going to build a new football stadium, the Daryl Gooden Stadium, who donated $9 million to them. New weight room, new locker room, suites. Wow, what a job! And I always point to Judy Benz and Dave Scott, the athletic director. Those two people have led a charge at UWF that has taken it. The only person that thought that was Bobby Bowden. I had him on my show and I asked him before they even had a football team, Bill. I asked Bobby, I said, how is UWF going to, because I had friends, naysaying it, we can't support football here, all that stuff, right? I had friends. Bobby Bowden said, they're going to win a championship and they might go Division I one day. And I was looking at him like, really?
That's amazing, Paul. And that is the man's incredible vision, because I remember him saying, hey, if they are in Division II, they'll be the only public university in Florida with a Division II program. And he said all these kids that come out of all these great high school programs, not every one of them is a Division I level player, but they could play Division II or Division III because they'll have the market cornered. Well, guess what? They do. And they're good. And I mean, again, I'm glad you brought that up, because you and I and Mark, who would have ever imagined 20, 30 years ago, we'd be talking about UWF, $55 million football stadium on campus and with complete facilities. And who knows the possibility? I think it would be great if the Senior Bowl came over for one day and practiced here to expose the Senior Bowl to Pensacola, and I think they'd get a huge crowd for it.
It's a great idea.
A huge turnout for it, because I think Pensacola is different than Mobile in terms of we got a diverse population. People would love to see players from Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Southern Cal. They'd come out to watch that. So I think it'd be great, but who would have ever imagined it? I mean, really, it's just phenomenal what's going on there.
Hey, Bill, you remember they went to the national championship game and lost in the national championship game
2 years in.
They lost in the national championship game in basketball. Got off the plane, got to the Pensacola airport, and realized the program had been dropped.
Right.
Wow, basketball.
I think you were in Tallahassee then, but I remember that in the 70s.
That was
awful.
But and I got to tell you guys, I think the next big announcement from them will be that they're going to go Division I.
Yes.
So you heard it here. I know I've talked to too many people that have said it's in the works. Now, what division? Where would they go? Probably the conference that's the Atlantic Sun that has North has West Georgia, North Alabama. 2 former members of the Gulf South Conference are in that league. Kennesaw State, Mercer. They could compete right away in that league. But the important thing about it is if they're D1, now you open up the possibility of them playing somebody really big, at least in a game somewhere. I think basketball, their men's basketball team is having a great year. Their men's golf team won a national championship for the 3rd time in Division II, so they'll be able to compete. But now with this football stadium, hey, possibilities are there for who knows what,
Senior Bowl or something like that. You're exactly right. People don't, and that's a big economic impact on this area, Bill. You're absolutely right. Could you imagine Mississippi State or Ole Miss or coming into Pensacola to play? You're talking about a stadium at Division I. You're talking about probably a 25,000 seat stadium, somewhere close to that. You remember the old erector set we used to have in Tallahassee?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All they did was build FSU around that. You know what I'm saying?
How did Bobby Bowden recruit Deion Sanders to play there with that stadium? But he did. He look at the great players that he got to play there when they didn't have any kind of a Derek Brooks, Charlie Ward. I mean, those guys all played in that old stadium. So it's just so who knows what will happen. But I think Pensacola is in a great place. I would just like to see somehow money to fall out of the sky for these schools and get these schools better. Because I think that's the one thing that's got to get better here. Education.
Absolutely. Let's put money in education.
Thank you for saying it, Bill.
Yeah. We need to get the word out. Man, we could talk for hours, Bill. Man, we got so much. Man, thanks so much for joining the show. It's always a joy to see you, man, and learn stuff from you.
Yeah, man.
But have me on anytime.
Yeah, Hall of Fame. Bill
Hall of Fame. Hey, got a Hall of Fame reporter here.
And happy Mardi Gras, everybody.
All right. Yes, sir.
You too,
all right. Okay,
thanks,
take
buddy.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Oh man, what a joy he is.
Coming out of the Tallahassee Democrat, that's where I first read his work was, when I like looking up Tallahassee high schools.
Yeah, he
was the guy. And so
he's an amazing guy, man. We didn't get to talk about everything we wanted to, but he has a great history. I wanted to see how he got to Tennessee. He's a graduate of Tennessee, University of Tennessee, and ended up here, being from Pittsburgh, and came down here. And like you said, 88, 87, been here ever since. What a joy. We're blessed to have him.
Yes.
Thanks for joining, Hobbs. Thanks for watching the show, everybody. Stay tuned for these messages. Without this, they wouldn't be possible. Thanks to Sandy Sansing Chevrolet. So long, everybody.
When it comes to buying your next car, truck, or SUV, you need a team that puts you first. Here at the Sandy Sansing dealerships, we're proud to serve Pensacola and the Gulf Coast with the best selection, trusted service, and deals that work for your family. Just like great coaches build great teams, Sandy Sansing builds lasting relationships with every customer who walks through our doors. Because when it comes to finding your next vehicle, there's only one name to remember. Sandy Sansing can.
Arbitrium Consulting for all your fencing, landscaping, pressure washing, tree trimming needs. Call 850-483-0350 for your free estimates. Serving Pensacola, Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, Destin, Perdido, Gulf Shores, Foley, and the entire Gulf Coast. Arbitrium Consulting is owner-operated, fully licensed and insured. Call today, 850-483-0350, the official landscaper of Coach's Corner.
Did you know there's a place where you can get good neighbor service and surprisingly great rates on your home and auto insurance? Yep, and that place is, ta-da, State Farm. Here's the deal. State Farm agent Will Rentschler is your go-to agent in Pensacola, Florida for the service you deserve at the price that you want. So stop shopping around. State Farm agent Will Rentschler has you covered. Call 850-433-4678 for your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Legal disclaimer.
That's you trying to fix the plumbing yourself to save a few bucks. Doing things yourself doesn't always end well. The same goes for insurance. That's why Auto Owners works with local independent agents who tailor coverage to meet your needs and offer discounts for life, home, car, and business insurance. Because sometimes you need a professional to get the job done right. That's simple human sense.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray, and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time.